Did you know that if you run out of stamina while climbing in Wuthering Waves, you won't die to fall damage? Here are 12 things that Wuthering Waves has that Genshin Impact doesn't. As always, like and sub if you enjoyed this vid. Some differences are more obvious than others. For example, number 1, if you run out of stamina while climbing, you slide down the edge, you don't just fall. This means that in Wuthering Waves, if you run out of stamina right before reaching the top of the mountain, your character will not die from fall damage. Instead, they slide down and you can try again with a different approach. This was something that always annoyed me in Genshin Impact, because you'd be right there about to climb up over the edge of the mountain, only to run out of stamina and die to fall damage. Then you have to revive your character with an egg or something, which respawns them with 1 HP, and try again. Number 2, speaking of climbing mountains, you can also run up walls. Another thing I hate about climbing in any game is how slow it can be. Climbing in Genshin Impact is so slow, yet it consumes the most stamina out of any other movement mechanic. Thankfully, in Wuthering Waves, it cuts down on the slow aspect by allowing you to run up walls instead of climbing them. Of course, this will consume stamina, but at least it won't take 10 years to get up a small cliff. Third major difference, sprinting doesn't cost stamina in the overworld. In Wuthering Waves, you can sprint throughout the overworld with no care in the world since it doesn't deplete your stamina. It only costs stamina to do a dash, not sprint. This is different from Genshin Impact, which costs stamina to do both a dash as well as a sprint. This leads to a lot of downtime when exploring because you'll run out of stamina and have to do a slow jog to regain stamina before dashing or sprinting again. Definitely a good quality of life change in Wuthering Waves. The fourth major difference is that farming echoes doesn't cost resin/stamina. So in Genshin Impact, you have artifacts to gear your character, right? In Wuthering Waves, you have echoes. Echoes are essentially how you gear your character to Wuthering Waves, and are farmed by killing mobs or bosses. Obviously, bosses will give you stronger echoes. However, in Genshin Impact, in order to gain powerful artifacts, you have to go into a domain and use at least 20 resin for a 5-star artifact. In Wuthering Waves, however, since the echoes come from killing monsters and bosses, and killing the monsters doesn't require any resin/stamina, this means that you can farm as many echoes as you want without needing to use any precious resin or stamina. How great is that? Of course, there is a catch. You can farm as many echoes as you want, but if you find one that you like and want to upgrade it, then that will cost stamina, as it requires upgrade material, which is obtained by using stamina. Number 5. Wuthering Waves has a gacha weapon banner that is not a scam. Genshin Impact's weapon banner is infamous for being a scam. If you don't know how their weapon banner works, essentially, each weapon banner has 2 limited time rate up 5-star weapons. Every 80 summons, you are guaranteed a 5-star weapon. But there is a 25% chance it is not any of the 2 rate up weapons and just a standard 5-star weapon. The other 75% chance is split between the 2 rate up weapons. So, if you are only going for one of the limited time weapons and not both, you have a 37.5% chance of getting the weapon that you want. Not that high. Now, you can set a path for the weapon that you want, so that if the first 2 5-star weapons you get is not the one that you want, the third time you get a 5-star weapon, it will be guaranteed the one that you want. This means that if you are the most unlucky, it will take you a whopping 240 summons to get the weapon that you want. Now, if you compare this system to what Wuthering Waves has currently, it is 1,000 times more simple. In Wuthering Waves, on the limited weapon banner, by 80 summons, you are guaranteed to get the limited time rate up weapon on the banner. That's it. No BS system where you have to pray to get the weapon that you want. Just 80 summons, and you get it. On the standard weapon banner, you can set a path for the weapon that you want, and you'll also get it in 80 summons. No BS. So yeah, the gacha system is a lot better in Wuthering Waves compared to Genshin Impact. The 6th major difference between the 2 games is that one has a skip dialogue button. Another thing that Genshin Impact doesn't have is a skip dialogue button, which is so frustrating. There is a lot of talking in Genshin Impact, especially by Paimon, which gets really annoying to the point where you wish you can just skip the dialogue entirely. Well, thankfully, if you're not a lore person, or are playing on a second account, or you have multiple accounts where you're rerolling or something, Wuthering Waves gives you the option to skip dialogue, which is great. Okay, and at number 7, a good segue, number 7, the MC actually has voice lines. Speaking of dialogue, Genshin Impact receives a lot of criticism because the Traveler has no actual voice lines in the dialogue. It's always just Paimon yapping her mouth off. However, in Wuthering Waves, the MC, or the name is Rover, has actual voice lines. Crazy, I know. So instead of having to listen to a floating lolly balloon partner with a high-pitched voice speak your thoughts, you can just listen to the beautiful voice of your own character. Number 8, different styles of puzzles in the overworld. Genshin Impact has puzzles, but in the overworld, the puzzles are pretty one-dimensional. Don't get me wrong, Genshin Impact has some puzzles that can make you tear your hair out, but those are usually the puzzles that are in an important quest or storyline. In the overworld, the puzzles are pretty one-dimensional. Think about collecting all the glowing orbs, hitting a block a certain time, certain way, hitting a statue with a certain element, etc. In Wuthering Waves, there is a lot more variety when it comes to puzzles in the overworld. You have 2D platformer puzzles, parkour puzzles, racing puzzles, Candy Crush-like puzzles, color pipe puzzles, a rhythm game. None of these puzzles are in Genshin Impact, and there's a lot more variety when it comes to puzzles in Wuthering Waves. Number 9. You can switch characters mid-air. Genshin Impact is pretty limited when it comes to character switching. You can only switch between characters in your team if your character is touching the ground. If you jump or use abilities that make you airborne, you are stuck on that character until they touch the ground again. In Wuthering Waves, their character switching is extremely dynamic. You can switch between characters mid-air, allowing you to perform attack combos that you otherwise wouldn't be able to if you could only switch characters while on the ground. It also helps that characters can double jump in Wuthering Waves. Each character also has a cool switch in attack if you can build up to it, where they can jump into combat with their switch and move. Number 10. 4-star characters have ultimate animations. If there's one thing everything loves about Genshin Impact, it's the burst animations. That sequence where you get a close-up of your character performing their ultimate attack is always satisfying. However, 4-star characters in Genshin Impact don't have animations of their own, so their ultimate ability just feels like any other normal ability. However, in Wuthering Waves, every 4-star character has a unique close-up animation for their ultimate ability. This makes the ability feel more powerful and gives more depth to the 4-star characters by further showcasing their personality. Of course, these animations aren't as detailed as the 5-star characters, but at least Kuro Games showed love to their 4-star characters and gave them unique animations. Number 11. 120 FPS. In 2024, being locked at 60 FPS for a game should be criminal. In that case, Genshin Impact should be locked up for eternity. Thankfully, in Wuthering Waves, you have the option to change the frame limit up to 120 FPS. I would have liked to see the frame limit increased further, perhaps even to unlimited, but I'll take any improvement. At least I won't be stuck playing a game at 60 FPS in 2024. It doesn't make sense for any game to have that low of a frame limit, especially when they're on PC. Even some console games have a frame limit of 120 now, so I don't understand why Genshin Impact doesn't have that. At number 12, finally, the last thing is parrying. What most sets Wuthering Waves apart from Genshin Impact is its combat system, with parrying and perfect dodging being the cornerstones for its intense combat. Genshin Impact does have a quote-unquote perfect dodge system, since dashing does give you iframes to dodge attacks, which is why I only included parry. In Wuthering Waves, bosses have certain moves that can be parried, which is indicated by a glowing yellow circle before the boss attacks. Timing your character's attack with the yellow circle allows your character to parry the enemy's attack. You can also do this mid-air, which is pretty cool. So that's it. Those are the 12 differences that I wanted to mention in this video. If I left anything out, please let me know and write it down in the comments below. I'm sure there are many more differences that I couldn't catch while watching CBT2 gameplay. So be sure to write it down in the comments below, and maybe I'll make another video highlighting more differences. As always, like, sub if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.